We're live. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trail Talk with Frank the dog, Fern the dog, and Ricki. Into bed, Fern, go on. This is Trail Talk Live on a Friday. We're coming to you from the Mourne Mountains, my training camp, Ricki's training camp as well this week as too. So thanks for joining us. We've got some viewer questions and a few other things to get into tonight. So we're going to kick into that, and hopefully you can ask us some questions along the way. But we do have some dogs here and we have to keep them busy. So bear with us. First off, before we get into it, I've got to thank xmiles.co.uk for sponsoring the show. Head over there. Get your nutrition, your gels, your drinks, and all of these types of things. Ricki, we're going to jump into the questions, but let's get a bit of a training update from you. How's it been going this week?
Yeah, building nicely this week. So this week's going to be one of my biggest weeks of the training block so far because we're getting close. We're like, I think, 6.5 weeks out, something like that. 5 weeks, 6.5 weeks, something like that. 5 or 6 weeks out. But we'd say going to be doing about 150 kilometers this week. So the volume is going up, the vert is going up. We're doing a Trail Talk group run tomorrow, which is going to be super fun. And then I'm doing a big day with a mate of mine on Sunday. So that's going to be 40k in the mountains with big vert. How's your training going for Australia, man? It's not long till your race. I think I'm sweating. My race is 6 weeks out. Your race is like 4 weeks out, man.
4 weeks. 4 weeks tomorrow, but I'm definitely not thinking about this. There's a lot to happen between now and then. It's going to be a short taper. Definitely won't be anything more than a 2-week taper. And even at that, it'll really just fall off a cliff in the last week because of the travel. So, yeah, I'm focusing on getting another couple of weeks of good vert, good consistent training, and things are starting to click this week. Whenever you're able to race and do reps, and do your long runs, and not feel like shit, it's a good week.
Yeah, and shout out to Hill and Dale's race yesterday because there was 400 people in that race you did yesterday. It was like a 6.5, 7k race. Ridiculous amount of people in it. Looked like super fun.
Yeah, 800 people registered for a weekly Thursday night race series. 8 races in it, all under 10k, mountain races, straight up and straight down. Pick your own route for the most part. Yeah, just good fun during the week.
Yeah, good fun. I'd be slightly afraid, slightly cautious doing a race like that a couple of weeks out from, you know what I mean, from a goal race because you could easily get carried away on some of them descents and pick up a little injury. But look, you did good. You did you ran well. Quads aren't smashed. You can continue training. So it's all guns blazing.
Definitely, I've been thinking about the sore foot. The foot that was sore. It's not sore now, but it has been in my mind that there's potentially this thing under my foot that could flare up again. So it's all good. But look, let's move on and tackle some of these questions. Some fun ones, some training ones. But let's start off with a simple one before we get into a more interesting one, let's say. Someone's asked, like, do you carb load, and what does that look like for you?
We're talking about pre-race, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly, yeah. So, like, carb loading is a funny one because some people think, oh, the way you carb load is the night before a race, you eat 2 pizzas and you get ready to race. Like, you know, that for me is definitely not going to work. Like, so all I do is I just increase the amount of carbohydrates that I'd normally have. So, like, if I was having rice with my chili that I have every single day of the week, come race week, I'm still having my chili, but I'm just having more rice, you know. And like when I'm going to work, instead of having 2 wraps at work, I'm probably having 3 wraps at work. So I'm just making sure that my glycogen cells are full and that my energy levels are fully stocked and I'm ready to roll come race day. Nothing fancy, nothing major, but just upping the carbs in the few days leading up to the race. You?
What have I done with these dogs today? We've got live dogs on the live show.
Ricky's here. That's why they just got excited because I'm in the house today.
Uncle Ricky's here. Yeah. For me, I keep it simple. I will eat pasta a couple of days, basically for dinner. The few days leading up to a race, I'll do a carb drink night before a race just to like top it up. So you're getting the carbs, but you're not getting the bulk of extra kind of food volume. Because that can just change your cycle of, when you're gonna poo.
Yeah.
And then I'll do a carb drink morning of after a breakfast. And I don't go heavy on the breakfast. I would have done like a small porridge or something, but I would say maybe the last 6 months I've been doing more stuff like just a bagel, because there was some science come out that the bagel had maybe the most simple carbs that you could have. So I just do like a toasted bagel and maybe some sports nutrition as well.
Yeah, same. Bagel, peanut butter and jam. You can't beat it, man. Bagels are just good because it doesn't sit heavy in your stomach, and I just feel like it's got everything, and it's fast. It's white. Everything that's white bread is fast. Gets to the bloodstream very, very quick.
Second simple question. Daily supplements. Let me just run down what I do first, and then you can take over from that. I do L-theanine in the morning with black coffee, and that's like for like mental clarity and things like that, like 200 milligrams. I do magnesium, I do vitamin D, and then after every run, regardless of whether it's recovery, workout, whatever, I do whey isolate, creatine, super greens, and a shaker. And I actually make it up in the morning. Like whenever I'm doing the coffee beans and doing all that sort of stuff, I'll just make that shake up, stick it in the fridge, and then when I come in from the run, I can sit thinking of a cool name from a Strava, and I can drink my protein shake. Or if I'm driving for the run, I can just grab it, and it's in the van for afterwards. What about you?
Yeah, like I'm not a huge supplement guy, and it's only up until lately that I've been trying a few new things. So I think maybe 2 months ago I started taking glucosamine for my joints, taking turmeric with black pepper again for joints and cartilage and all those good things, because I am getting to that age now where I'm just thinking, I'm 42 now. You know what I mean? I've just signed like a pro contract with Hoka, so I want to make sure that I'm able to run for another few years and run well for another few years. So I want to look after my joints, look after my bone health. And then my other supplement is creatine. And creatine is something that I've never took before. It's so early, I have no idea if it's doing anything for me, but I'm trying it out. I've weighed myself when I first started taking it, and after Granite Peaks, I'm going to just have a little sort of like sit down and see, do I feel like it's done anything for me, so that, and I'm only taking the 5 milligrams a day. I'm not going 10, because some people are saying you need to be taking you need to be loading, doing a loading phase. I'm just sticking to that 5 milligrams of creatine because look, I'm vegan and I'm not getting creatine from a meat source or anything like that. So I just don't think it can do me any harm. And if it can help with me running, I'm always going to try it. Like I always said, I'd eat the kitchen table if I thought it would make me run faster.
That sounds like you. Yeah, so maybe I should mention that on the creatine thing, I am doing loading, but that loading finishes on Monday. So I used to take it a few years ago and I went off it. Sometimes you're doing things and you just fall out of the way of doing it. So I got back into it because there was some science came out about like the cognitive benefits of that and it helping with memory and all of these types of things. And you might be thinking about the aging athlete. I might just be thinking about aging. So I'm taking creatine for a little bit of a brain boost as well as the energy production that it can help. So I'm doing like over 20 a day.
Wow.
And then I'll drop down to probably around 5, 6, something like that. I think the scoops that in mine are 4, so between 1 and 2 scoops I'll do starting from next week.
Yeah, 20 is a lot. Wow.
Yeah, but so some of the science that's come out that I've read about is with the brain benefits and stuff. So like if you went up and took like 20, 30 grams a day on like travel days and the day after a travel day, it can really help with your memory and just focus with jet lag.
Yeah.
So things like that, with the traveling and stuff. So
Also good for taking your supplements is to have a memory, because that's always been my problem down through the years. It's like I'm not taking that, because I keep forgetting to take it. So a tip that I learned from my wife, and I'm sure you do it as well, I think anyone that's smart is doing it, put it beside the coffee. Put it beside the coffee so that first thing in the morning, it's there. My glucosamin's there, my turmeric's there, my creatine's there. Everything's beside the coffee, and it just makes it nice and simple. You won't forget it.
You'll see in the kitchen, my stuff's sitting out there because I do it in the morning. And if I had to think about it, or I had to lift it out of a cupboard, I'd probably forget.
Yeah.
You need to make things easy. So we've got a really deep, meaningful question coming up, Ricki. And I don't know who asked this question, but thanks for bringing this on Instagram Live. And if you can't stick around for the rest of the show, you can catch up tomorrow on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you do your pods. So you can check it out there. And if you're using those platforms, leave us a review, drop us a comment. We love that type of shit. So do that and help us out. Ricki, if you poop your pants in an ultra, what's the protocol?
What's the protocol?
And maybe elaborate out in that, like any close calls that you can talk about. What's your whole? What are your thoughts about pooping in ultras here? High level stuff.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Like, look,
Einstein's on the show.
Yeah, look, we talked a lot last week about shit and poo and stuff like that. So there's no harm in mentioning it again this week in a different context. But we'd say I am very, very fortunate that I've only ever got caught short in a race once, and it was in Lavaredo in 2019. I remember it. So it was just one of those things where I had to go.
Cut. What happened in Lavaredo? Did you shit yourself?
No, I didn't.
It was close?
Yeah, it was close. But I mean, you just pull over and squat behind a bush and, you're good to go again. Like, what else can you do? I wouldn't be worried about it. And I didn't, poop my pants as such. It was a controlled event. It's on my terms.
Slow release.
On my terms, yeah. Like, there is nothing worse than being caught short, especially if you're out in a training run or something like that. But it's part of being a runner, right? So, there's no harm in talking about it. There's no harm about whatever. But thankfully, I've never actually, pooed myself.
Would you trust a fart in an ultra?
Yeah, of course you would.
I wouldn't.
No?
No. After maybe 10 gels, I don't think it's safe to trust a fart.
But what about the times when you're bombing down a hill and all of a sudden I could pop out 10 farts in a row and it's like a tune nearly.
It's because you're a vegan.
Yeah, it's just this rumble of farts, and it's fine. They're controlled. They're fine. They're not going any further.
Midpacker Pod in the chat says that he carries a little shovel and TP on all his long runs. That is very admirable of you. In Ireland, you don't have to do that type of thing. You can just lift a bit of moss, and there you go. You've made your own toilet.
I ain't carrying no shovel.
You'll hardly even carry a water bottle, so you're not carrying a shovel. Right, okay. Well, I don't really have anything more to add to that, but I could tell one short story. So I think this was a UTMB or a CCC. It was one or the other, but it was on the balcony route between Bertone and Bonatti. And it was CCC 2015 because it was super busy along there. We'd just come up the big climb. And, we'd opened up and we're running between the two huts, the two refuges. And, it's not forested up there. You're up around 2,000 meters.
Yeah, it's open.
There was this guy just pulled off the trail, maybe pulled off 20 meters, a good bit off trail, but there was no trees, there was no bushes, bar this one tree. And fuck's sake, Ricki, it was like a sapling. It was no thicker than my arm with a few leaves and stuff at the top. And he went behind this twig, whipped down the cacks and had an experience. So that's my only memory of pooping in an ultra because it hasn't happened to me.
Last one in Ultravassen. I forgot about this. Ultravassen race in Sweden. I think Jim Walmsley won it, set the course record on. But anyway, I was running in it one of the years, and I was sitting in like the top 10 or something like that, and there was a guy in front of me, and he had to go, like, you know, he just had to run for the bushes. I don't think he was any more than 3 seconds. It was the fastest, most efficient thing I've ever seen in my life, and he was back. He hardly broke stride. It was the most impressive thing I've ever seen.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
You probably have to practice that.
Yeah, I mean, it was drop, squat, and I'm telling you, he was so efficient. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Let's move on because, and we can guarantee you there'll be no talking like this in the next show because, just ignore it, because otherwise that'll be 3 in a row. So we can't do that. So look, moving on, another one here. I've got a feeling I know who submitted this question, but we'll not call the person out. Who's the lamest elite runner in ultra running? And, you know, this is Trail Talk. Say whatever you want. Do it respectfully. Don't be a dick. So bring it to us.
Yeah, like, for me, I think the lamest of the lame this year has been Camille. Like, you know, I think Camille has just done a lot of shitty things this year, and she's just not shining a good light on herself or a good light on the sport. And I just think that she's done some crazy things. And for me, she gets my vote in the lamest, you know.
Oh, you went deep on that? Mm. I wasn't on that level. I made a couple of notes whenever I saw that. And I thought, like, are we talking in terms of vibes or in terms of running? And lamest being in a lighthearted way, because I think you're right, like, Camille is more than lame. She's like a fucking lunatic, like a little bit screw loose. But I would have said, like, in terms of no vibes, top of the charts is Tom Evans and Hayden Hawks. Great runners, great athletes, but not very cool. I'll leave it at that. No disrespect. I'm sure they're not trying to be cool anyway.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of Liam, I was taking Liam.
Yeah.
As in vibes.
And you know, like, I totally get that too. And I thought about that as well. And I was thinking, no, do you know what? I don't want to say that poor old Tom Evans isn't cool, like, because he gets a lot of stick from people.
Even in the ASICs.
Yeah, but he gets so much stick, and people like think he has no personality. I'm sure he has, and I'm sure he's actually good crack in real world, right, in real life. And I just thought, if I'm going to talk about somebody lame, I'm actually going to talk about somebody lame.
Better.
Yeah.
You picked a better one. Yeah. I'm sure Tom is just perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Like, we only see him as an athlete where the type A personality comes to the fore, and that's the only dimension that we're seeing.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, he's just a guy, you know, who's married, has a house, does all the regular things that you and I probably do anyway. So, yeah. Maybe I'm a bit harsh. What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure.
This better not be lame.
It'll be very lame, because I don't really have a guilty pleasure.
Frozen vegetables?
Yeah, like, I'm a
vegan sausage roll.
No, because I think a vegan sausage roll is rank. I think, like, if I'm my wife makes these vegan brownies, and she usually makes them for me after a race or something like that, and I go to town on them. They are so good. Like, someday I will give you some, and they are so good. And if she makes a big box of them, and I go through that box, it wouldn't last me a week, you know.
If she listens to this, that's extra kudos for you.
Yeah.
Brownie points.
She's definitely listened to this, because I didn't see her today for long. I only saw her for like 2 seconds this morning. I went to work, got in the car, I came up, drove 3 hours to be on the show, and like, I won't see Trina until I think Monday, you know, whatever. But so hi Trina.
Hold on, are you staying here until Monday?
Sunday.
I didn't even know that. For me, chocolate Brazil nuts. Oh my God. Do not leave me with a packet of chocolate Brazil nuts. I will eat them like they're going out of fashion. Like, I could down 10, 15 chocolate Brazil nuts.
They're dangerous too.
Yeah.
They're dangerous.
High calorie, fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Look, my granda used to buy a packet of you used to be able to buy them by weight,
Yeah.
when I was a kid. And every Sunday we used to go to the park, and on the way there he would have got petrol and got some chocolate Brazil nuts. And I used to get, and that would have done him all week. He had them in his wardrobe, and oh, Granda, kind of a chocolate Brazil nut, and I would have got a couple of these. So it's just like,
Yeah.
it's a special treat for me. So there's some in the cupboard.
Yeah.
My favourite guilty pleasure.
But the nuts are one of them things. It's like you can be horsing them into you, and you think, but sure, they're really good for me. They're really good for me. And yes, they are really good for you. But a certain amount of them is really good for you. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to keep an eye on you.
I'm not eating. Well, I'll maybe have one after the show. The next question. There's always a lot of love for Frank. Frank is my small dog. There's Trina's in the chat.
Yeah.
He was giving you love about the brownies. Frank the dog, he always gets, people always want them on the pod. He was on at the start. If you missed them, I don't want to call him up because we'll have two dogs here and you don't know how to deal with it. And they're on your side. So you'll not be able to put them to bed. So Frank has been on the pod. If you're tuning in on audio, swap over to video, go to the start, you'll see Frank the dog. You'll maybe even see Fern the dog as well. So we've put that one to bed, and I'm pretty sure Ari always asks that question. Yeah. So Ari, there's no need for you to ask to see Frank anymore. Frank loves you.
He got his 5 minutes of fame. He got his 5 minutes.
What's your main motivation in terms of in training or when a race gets hard?
Obviously my main motivation in training is the race that I'm training for, right? So it's like if I have a time I want to run, or if there's a position I want to finish in, or if there's a team I want to get selected for, that's my motivation while I'm training. And then it's funny, like only like lately, right? Because I'm training for Granite Peaks. So my mum passed away only a few months ago, so like 2 months ago and 3 months ago. So I used to always say, look, I try and win this race for mum, messing, right? And at the minute now, that is huge fuel to my fire at the minute, where I catch myself out in a long run or something like that, and I'll have a moment where I just think about mum. And like my mum wouldn't give a shit if I finished first or last, right? But at the same time, for me, it's massive fuel to my fire, like, that I'm doing it for mum at the minute, like, yeah.
That's a good one, and it also makes a mockery of mine, because my note for this one is, I don't have a douchey why. You don't have a douchey why. You've got a really a good one, a really deep, meaningful one that could drive you forward. I really don't have like a strong why, other than I like to try and do things that I might not be able to do.
Yeah,
and it's not like a running thing. Like, that's just generally. I like to learn how to do stuff and try to be good at it. And running just seems to be one of those things that's taken up more years to try and be good. Most other things, you've come in and had a hobby, and maybe it's run its course at, I don't know, 5 years or whatever. But running has, I don't know, how far are we in now? Like 15 years deep. And it's maybe I'm still interested in it because I haven't got good enough, but I hate to break it to myself. I might be peaking. I mightn't be getting any better. So yeah, and maybe the last thing is, it's not running. I like being outdoors, out in the outdoors. I like being in the mountains. I'm not necessarily like enjoy walking around the park. I don't really like man-made parks and structures and things. When I lived in Amsterdam, the massive big forest there, the trail run was 21k around it, and you were always in nature.
Yeah.
But it always felt like it was something that was made. It felt like the trees were planted and the grass was sown. It didn't feel like it was just, some wild, and the rocks and boulders had been there from, before generations of people. So I don't know. It's not a deep why. It's just something I love to do.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a deep why. Like would say, if you took away racing from me, like, I love racing and I love finishing high up in races and stuff like that, and I love doing well and performance and all that sort of shit, like, but at the same time, you took that away from me, and I could just run, I'd be just as happy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the sport of running that we love. Like, you know, and someone would say to me, "Do you not get bored running?" And I'd be, "What are you talking about? Get bored running?" I'm looking at my feet all the time, looking down, going, "That was a good foot strike, good foot strike, good foot strike." Do you know, I could do that for 2 hours. I never get bored at that. Like, and that's running on the road. And then when you take me to the mountains, like, come on, like, that's why we do it, right? Because we're outside, we're in nature, and we're getting to bomb up and down hills as fast as we can, and that's super fun.
Yeah, so you're basically running along, patting yourself in the back, going, "Jesus, look at the stride in this boy here.
Yeah.
Look at the cadence. This is class. I'm just brilliant."
Yeah, but if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you.
Have to be your own cheerleader,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Others can come along as well.
Yeah.
Moving on to something that's getting closer. I mean, we're talking about Granite Peaks there. You're the goal race for this training block, which is the qualifier for the Irish team for the World Championships. But after that, we're hoping to be going to Western States. You're booked. I'm kind of hemming and hawing about booking, purely because of other things that have come onto the radar. But Western States is coming up, and the question here is, what's Ricki's goal for States? Goal, position, time, whatever.
Goal number one is get in. Get in, right? Because for anyone that doesn't know, right, yes, I'm going to Western States, but I'm in the wait list.
Where are you?
I was 38. So I was 38 in the wait list. I've moved up 10 spots, so I'm now sitting in 28. There was a good bit of movement over the last couple of weeks, but then this week it's kind of like just stopped. So I'm still in 28. But 28 is good, right? So we're talking, I think it went 56 deep last year, right? It went, during COVID years, it maxed out, but it went 56 deep last year, I think, or the year before. So I'm still very optimistic that it's going to happen. But it doesn't matter. Either way, my flights are booked. My accommodation is sorted with Chris. Chris, if you're listening, shout out to you. But my goal for the race, if I get in and if I am on the start line, look, I'm looking for something like, I would give Anton to have a top 20 finish, right? I'd give Anton to have a top 20 finish. Obviously, I'd give at my right leg and maybe a couple of my toes on my left leg to get in the top 10, right? But that's a huge ask, right? You're looking at some of the best runners in the world, some of the fastest runners in the world over there. So if I can hang on the heels of someone like Emily Hallgood or someone like that, come in around 1650, 1648, something like that, I don't think I could ask for much more than that. Like, that'd be an incredible day for me. And look, you never know. It's going to be so hot over there. People blow up big time in Western States. So if you play it cool, play it smart, and I'll have you to pace me in for the last 20 miles from the river, right?
As long as you're running slow enough. I don't want to be dropped. I don't want to hold you back, but I think we might be good. Keep it on States. You know, the momentum is building. Interest is starting to creep up as tickets are being allocated. So we've been asked, give us your early picks, top 5 men and women. Now, it's way too early to go top 5. So just give me some things, some athletes that you're interested in. Start with men, start with women, wherever you go, wherever you want, and I'll pick it up from there.
We'll start with the women. So, for me, Tara is, I think, is the one to watch, I think, this year. I think that she's so strong. She's so fast. And I just watched her in the live stream in Sonoma there last week or the week before. I think it was last week. And she looked super impressive. And I was going, she's super impressive overall. She's super impressive in men and women's field. I think she's that strong and she can have a day. And if she has a day, she could be very dominant. And I'm then excited to see Fiona race because it's great to see her coming over from the UK. She's been in the shadow of her sister for a very, very long time, and everyone knows her sister probably a little bit better, right, or more. So, but
older sister, so therefore you would know them more.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see how she's going to go. It'd be very interesting to see how she goes. And then, of course, one of my other favourites is Heather Jackson. I want to see Heather go really well. I want to see Emily Hallgood go really well as well. So that field, I just think in the women's field, it's so open. Like Riley Brady's there as well. There's a stack of fast ladies that are going to rip it up.
Yeah, totally. And like some of the names you mentioned there, people that are interesting for me, Riley Brady, Tara Dar, Caitlin Filder, Fiona Pascal.
Yeah.
Those are the four athletes that I'm kind of really excited about for the race. Now, but as you said, the women's field, there's like 10 to 15 women. Like, what's really cool about that is the women don't really race with this kind of dopey ego that the guys do. So they're not likely to blow each other up. And, it could be a really difficult race.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so many just crushers there.
There's so many of them that can finish in around the same time as well. Like, let's say that window of 16:20 to 16:50. They can all do that. They can all run that pace. Like, they can all finish in that kind of a window, which means that top 10, there's not going to be a lot between them. It's going to be a very exciting race. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a really fun kind of last couple of aid stations, like the last sort of 10 miles of that race. We could see lots of that, like Hayden's quick close last year that was exciting. We could see loads of that in the women's race. And then on the guys, let me throw some stuff out first. So notes that I've made that people will know I never bet against Killian, but like Jim is obviously the favourite here. And I mean, if I was picking Fantasy Free Trail, I'd maybe hate to do it, but I might pick Jim to win. I mean, I'd be hard pressed not to, and I'm trying not to pick based on heart.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not just trying to like side with my team.
Yeah.
I'm not Team Europe. I'm not Team Killian. I'm Team Good fucking race.
I still think you're Team Killian.
I'm definitely Team Killian, but not to the point that I'll just pick him regardless of any other factor. So look, this is States. This is Jim's race. It's like I would never pick Jim to beat Killian at UTMB.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the flip of that. This is all the variables are in Jim's favour. And I think Killian is interested in it because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think it could be a real fight. But Jim's a favourite.
Exactly, right. And you've got Jim, you've got Killian, you've got Vincent, you've got Hayden. But Dan Jones is doing some cool things at the minute. Yeah. And I think that man is a rocket ship that's on fire at the minute. I think he's the most exciting thing to watch at the minute right now. And like, he just blitzed through a 50k there in 3 hours last week. And he's back in Australia now, and he's back in New Zealand now. Like, I'm very excited to see what he can do. I actually think that if he turns up, there's no way you can't say that he doesn't have a chance of winning it. He definitely has a chance of winning it. If he has a day, he'd fucking blow anyone away. Eh?
Yeah, look, Dan Jones is super exciting. Every year, throughout the year, he's on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
He keeps getting faster. He keeps gaining experience. He's with Terex now, he's going into his second year now. He just started with him about a year ago, right? So he's with that team. He's got the fueling dialed, coached by Robbie Britton. Results, speed, everything is going in his favour. He's just accumulating all this experience. And like last year, you would say him and Hayden were close, but Hayden would pip him.
Yeah.
This year, I don't know who I would.
I know.
Like who's got the who's on the upper trend. Like Hayden's there. Hayden is top class.
Yeah.
But Dan is just on the ascendancy from already an amazing level. So Dan could go out and have a day.
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
So he's definitely top 5, and that is, anyone in that top 5 could win it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anything else on the men's field before we move on?
Do you want to talk about Roach? What do you think he's going to do there?
I didn't even have him. He's not in my notes.
No, but just because there's a lot of hype around him. And then just lately, that hype train has kind of fallen away with
The bubbles burst.
the bubbles burst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that maybe he might have major regrets from running the big Alta, because he had so much momentum and hype
Yeah.
and eyeballs, and I bet the reach and engagement on his content has plummeted after that.
Yeah.
And he's probably in a position where he's thinking, you know, he was trying to drum up all this interest and get these views and get these people on Patreon and like try and business create a business out of this, or expand that business, and it kind of like fell on his face, unfortunately. Like, he seems like a great guy. I hope he does well, but I don't think he's in the conversation of the athletes that we're talking about.
Exactly.
And I don't mean it in a disrespectful way.
No, and I still think that Dave Roach could definitely finish top 10. He could definitely finish top 10, but I just don't think that he's top 5. I just don't think so. And like, he had a lot of hype behind him, and he's done some amazing things, but I just think it's a bridge too far. Big Alta was a huge knock to his confidence, I think, and it's kind of like back to the drawing board. And here's Frank. What do you think, Frank?
Don't give him any attention. This is all the attention he needs. Yeah, look, no shade on him.
Yeah.
Definitely has top 10 potential, but look, the question was about top 5, and he wasn't even in my... I didn't even think about him when I was thinking about who will I put in my notes for top 5.
Yeah.
So look, we've run to, we're coming up on 40 minutes here. I'm not quite sure on the time, but this is Trail Talk Live. We're here every Friday. Catch up on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever. It's going to go up straight after this. Leave us a comment, leave us a review. Whatever you do it your way. And, we're just having a bit of fun, right?
That's it, yeah.
We've got the Trail Talk meetup tomorrow. We're going out running in the mountains in a storm. Wish us luck.
It's lashing. It is lashing.
It's not good. Last thing I want to say, look, I want to just mention a little bit on that from last week's show. So, talking about the Arizona Monster and all of the shit show that was associated with that race and the negativity that came out, I just want to say that everything that was said on the show came from volunteers, racers, finishers, DNFs, pacers, first-hand accounts that I spoke to one-on-one, text messages, this type of thing. We didn't have a roundtable discussion. This is 2025. So these aren't things that were read off Reddit or off the WhatsApp, Trail Talk WhatsApp group. This is real accounts from people who were there. And anyone that doesn't believe that, why don't you go over to YouTube and read some of the comments? Because people have said, I was a crew chief, or I was at an aid station, or I was a pacer, and this is what I think. So go over there and see if we made any of that up. And I'm saying that because I hope Candice Burt is watching or listening to our show, because I've had a lot of DMs from Destination Trail this week threatening legal action, and to them I would like to say, do better. And from you and from me, see you next time.